I can jump in there if you guys are having to think. I think really broadly the understanding of humans. I mean, be that in your personal interactions with colleagues or the actual work you're doing, it's been really important. And then I mean, a lot of what I do is I mean, it doesn't have it. What I do now has clearly nothing to do with the aging rate of the human skeleton across different populations, which was the work I did for my PhD. The stuff I use every day is the broader expertise around, the fact that we're all human, we have similarities and differences, and that empathy towards other people, understanding that and the different social context has will affect people's lives. So socioeconomics, the biology, all that stuff is the interrelationship. So I think from your anthropology undergraduate degree, you get that. You get the idea that there's an interrelationship between your social status, your health, your everything. So I think that's been really important throughout.
I can tell you a bit about how I've used anthropological skills. I think having a background in anthropology has been one of the most useful things in the workforce. So there are a number of stories I have. The first was when I went in sort of for an informal interview at the Center of Forensic Sciences for that policy and program analyst interview or position. And it was informal. It was more like a chat, but one of the first questions they asked me was, do you know what a workforce assessment is? And I said, no. And they said, so you've never done one before? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, this is the major project that we want you to do. And they said, here's what it involves. We want to know about the composition of our workforce, about our staff and managers, and so that we can do long-term strategic planning around, how many staff we're going to need, the resources we'll need, about the generations and the way they work together in the workplace. And they said, so, understanding that, where would you start in terms of completing that kind of project? And like, without missing a beat, I said, well, the first thing you do is you talk to people. You sit down and you have meaningful conversations with them about their work and their experiences. And I think that I was in with senior managers, and I don't think that's the typical response that they get, that you go straight to the workers and have a discussion about what they think and feel, rather than consulting managers about how their teams are functioning, or looking at outputs of data about productivity, for example, or doing lots of text-based research about the future of work. And all of those things are incredibly important. But from my perspective, if you're not talking to the people who are doing the work and understanding their lived experiences of being in the workplace together, then you're missing the point. And that's a very anthropological perspective, I think, and one that I don't think, I'm not sure that I would have arrived at that without, the education that I got at Western. And I think the real benefit of a department like yours that you're going through is that it does have a 4-field focus. And so while my academic interests were in biological anthropology and archaeology, I took so many sociocultural anthropology courses, and I even continued that into grad school. I took some medical anthropology courses as well. And just that breadth of knowledge about people and what they need and who they are and how they live and work together is just so foundational to understanding the modern workplace. And so, that's a skill that I was able to sell. And I do think I got that job on the strength of that approach. So I'm no longer in that position at the moment, but I think that's a good example of how anthropological thinking can help you to succeed in the workplace and in a business environment.
Yeah, I can quickly just top up on what others have said. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with everything Jen and Crystal have already shared, but the two things that stick out for me are writing skills. So I remember having to just write so many essays, which I didn't always love doing, but I can see how that's really made my life so much easier in the work that I do, because there's so much communication that happens through writing. So specifically related to my job, I sometimes have to create like user manuals or document processes, or um, even write out project plans that are clear and concise. And that's something that I can see a lot of my colleagues struggle with, and it's a lot easier for me. And I'm positive it has to do with the fact that I've had to do so much writing in the past. The other thing that's related to that is one of the skills I find very hard to find in the work that I do are people who are a very good bridge between like a technical team and a non-technical team. So for example, right now I work at TELUS. I sometimes work with, say, like a sales team and then a team of engineers. The sales team doesn't have the same knowledge as the engineers do. And often people who are very technical have a hard time speaking in a way that doesn't require a certain level of knowledge already. And I think I again am positive it's something that I got out of being able to collect so much information and then distilling it to, this is what my audience needs to know, whether it's in a paper or in a conversation, and being able to communicate it effectively to the audience that I'm speaking to. That's a feedback I've gotten both at my previous job and then now at TELUS. So it's not something that lots of people can do, and I really think it gives you a huge leg up in the workforce if you're able to communicate effectively, especially when it comes to sort of the specialized knowledge that a lot of people have a difficult time communicating.